everyone, it's Nisha. So today I wanted to explain how I understand the different face powders. And it might be obvious to most of you, but over the course of few last videos I had few comments of you asking me, what is the difference between all these powders? And I know I apply quite a lot of powders. One thing I want to tell you is what you see me do, or makeup artists or anybody else, is not something you have to do. This is just out there as an option. There is no right or wrong way of doing it. You don't have to use all the powders. A lot of these setting, finishing, a lot of it is a bit of a marketing ploy. Powder is a powder. Anyway, I suppose two main categories would be powder foundations and setting powders. And then powder foundations can be loose or pressed. So, for example, Laura Mercier mineral powder in Rich Vanilla, loose powder. I use it as a foundation powder. It doesn't actually say this is a foundation powder, but I think it is. The same with, Bare Minerals powder foundations. And then you can have pressed powders. And I've got another one here of Laura Mercier. This one is the Smooth Finish foundation powder. And it looks like this. It will usually have a little sponge applicator with it. And these powders have quite wide range of colors, obviously to match different skin types, and are more pigment dense because they need to give you a bit of coverage and, well, a bit of coverage. They need to give you coverage and color. I don't feel that powder foundations are very good for very mature skin and for very dry skins, because it will make your skin look even drier, very powdery, and it will enhance any lines and wrinkles. So that would be the powder foundations. Now setting powders. Okay, setting powders again can come in loose powder form or pressed powder. So for example, I have here Charlotte Tilbury Airbrush Flawless Finish Skin Perfecting Micro Powder. As you can see, I've hit the pan. I love this powder. So that's the pressed version, and for loose powder version I have by Terry Hyaluronic Hydra Powder. So setting powder goes after foundation. It goes after foundation to set your foundation, to stop it from sliding around and last longer, and to get rid of the shine. Setting powder can come colored to match your skin tone, or to match your foundation, or translucent, which is the usual white powder with no color at all. Now finishing powder. Finishing powder is usually something that goes on the top of setting powder, and it's there to give you that finish, to blur your pores, to give you a bit of luminosity, and it's usually very finely milled and much silkier than setting powder. And I would consider Hourglass Ambient Lighting Palette, or any of those powders, finishing powders. You wouldn't want to go and set your whole face and foundation with it, because they do have that sort of luminosity in them. They can be a bit shimmery. You just use them in certain parts of your face. But saying that, a lot of setting powders now have those abilities to blur the pores, to make your face look all airbrushed. So don't get too hung up about setting powder, finishing powder. Just know what you want from your powder. If you have dry skin, you probably don't need mattifying powder. You just need tiny bit of some sort of translucent powder, and this one is brilliant, especially for dry skin, because it is hyaluronic hydra powder, so it mattifies but hydrates, so it doesn't make you look cakey. So if you have dry skin, I would do that, and then you could use finishing powder like something like the Hourglass or MAC Mineralized Skin Finish, just to give you that luminosity. Now with me, people have been asking about the Laura Mercier mineral powder. I use it probably differently to a lot of people, and that's because that's the way I like it and that's the way it suits me. That doesn't mean you have to do it that way. If it works for you, do it. If it doesn't, you know, because people say use this powder, that's too much powder, it settles in my lines. You use as much powder and as many powders as you need, and they look good on you. I use Laura Mercier as a foundation sometimes, which means I will just put my regular moisturizer or some sort of CC cream that will give me tiny bit, no coverage but even out my skin, and then I will buff this in. When I use it as a foundation, I really buff it in, and I use quite a lot because obviously I want coverage from it. Laura Mercier mineral powder is the best mineral foundation in this form, loose form, that I have found. I feel that it gives me beautiful buildable coverage, and it's not very flat. It's not that powdery flat look. You know what I mean? That makes your face look like, well, very matte and flat. Also, if I ever overdo it, if I put too much and I see that my face is a bit powdery in places, I spray with Fix Plus or any toner, in fact, that you can spray on your face. Blow dry it, you know, with the blow dryer, so it melts the powder a bit with the liquid, and it becomes less powdery. But I also, if I don't use this as my foundation, I use it a bit as a setting powder. It's not really setting powder, I don't know, I just use it in addition to foundation. I do not like setting my foundation all over with a setting powder, because that can give you a bit dry look. That's why when I just use my liquid foundation, I will go on the outside of my face with Laura Mercier. It gives me a bit more evened out look, it adds a bit of warmth to my skin, and also sets my makeup a bit because it is a powder. And then through my T-zone, I will use something like loose translucent powder just to mattify my T-zone. And I very often use the Hourglass Ambient Lighting Palette because I like this nice sheen on my cheeks. But sometimes I will set my makeup with a pressed powder, so it all depends. But I just wanted to explain how I understand it, because I'm not an expert, I'm not a makeup artist, but I have been wearing makeup for a very long time, and I experiment with all sorts of powders, and that's how I use them. So don't feel you have to use powder foundation and setting powder, then finishing powder. Is what looks good on your skin. I think you should always use some sort of setting powder after your liquid foundation, because the liquid foundation can stay a bit tacky and can start slipping from your face and move around. If you use mineral powder foundation, that you don't need to use anything to set it, because this is already a powder. Unless throughout the day you get a bit oily, then take little setting powder and set your T-zone. So there is no rules, I don't think anyway, there is no rules, there is no right or wrongs, it's just what you prefer to do. So I hope that explains the mystery of the face powders. Thank you very much for watching, and I see you soon. Bye!